Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Great to be with you here after a Monday night football game. May have went the other way from what people thought. We'll break that all down for you. Of course, college football straight ahead. Bill Bender from Sporting News. We got our very own Ben Stevens previewing what's next for Colorado University. Also, Jacob Kamaker in the house as well. Plenty to get to today. News, notes, information every single day here on NewsWire, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for streaming us and tuning in. Let's get started, of course, with Monday Night Football last night. A game that the Los Angeles Rams are going to look back on and say maybe coulda, shoulda, woulda, but didn't. The Miami Dolphins come through in a big way, save their season, essentially, picking up their third win of the season. A very close game, back and forth. The Rams end up winning this one, and it looks like, the Dolphins end up winning this one, and it looks like the Dolphins have basically put themselves in a position now to potentially win out, make a run toward the playoffs. If the Rams don't make it, by the way, they're going to look back on this one and say they should have. The Dolphins defense came through in a very big way. Mike McDaniel talked about the stellar performance that shut down Matthew Stafford and company.
Our defense really galvanized the whole team, and I think it's very, very difficult to keep that offense out of the end zone. And I think it might have been like the second time Matt Stafford with the Rams had not had a touchdown, or they hadn't scored a touchdown offensively. That's difficult to do. I think the jump off point was third downs. I thought the coaching staff led by Weave did a great job with having a way to attack the guys, and I thought collectively it was the best execution of what we were trying to get done. So it was a very, very important game for our team, just to be on the heels of 3 losses, 2 on the final moments of the game, and I think that's something that we can build upon moving forward.
We'll see if it works for the Dolphins moving forward. Meanwhile, moving backward, that was a story last night for the Los Angeles Rams, moving up and down the field pretty much at will, and then shooting themselves in the foot with a lot of different penalties in this game. Sean McVay, head coach of the Rams, talked about the inefficiency on offense. Happy with the defense, but certainly a lot of missed opportunities on the field.
As it relates to the game, pretty straightforward. We didn't do nearly good enough job offensively. Defensively, I thought they did an amazing job being able to keep our football team in the game. But the turnovers gave us a chance, and then we turned the ball right back over from an offensive perspective. And then there just really was a lot of examples of, the importance of continuity. I'll have to go back and look at this tape, but it's got to be a lot better. And, it's really, we got to evaluate everything, and we've got to be a lot better.
I mean, it's just negative plays at the wrong times, right? Whether it's a turnover or a sack or inefficient play on first down, whatever it was, we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit in that kind of strike zone area, right, 30-yard line-ish area, and that was probably the difference in the game, not coming over with touchdowns. No, I mean, we're out there battling. I felt like it, it was a little bit of a game where they were going to try to keep a shell on the coverage and play a bunch of different variations of 2 deep, so forcing me to check the ball down to guys, and I was trying to do that early. If you're going to do that, you got to be ultra efficient, and one play here or there can make the difference, and we just didn't do a good enough job of overcoming those.
A couple of missed field goals also from the Rams cost them in this game. Meanwhile, if you're getting ready for Thanksgiving to watch the Dallas Cowboys, expecting to see Dak Prescott, think again, out for the season, placed on injured reserve. He's going to undergo surgery. We won't see Dak until next season with the Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, given the fact that sports betting taxes have gone up across the country, there's a new bill being proposed to raise the state tax on sports betting in Louisiana to up to 51%, just like New York. 36% sports betting tax hike is possible. We'll see if this gets voted through. More money, of course, coming in on betting in Louisiana. We'll see if the taxes raised will work for them again. The Chicago Bears have made a change on offense. It does not involve their quarterback. It does involve their offensive coordinator. Shane Waldron has been dismissed by the Bears. Their offense has struggled over the past few weeks. They have a rookie quarterback, number 1 overall pick in the draft, yet are having a hard time scoring points. We'll see if there is a change this week, because their head coach, Matt Eberflus, told the media yesterday that Caleb Williams will continue to start at starting quarterback for his team moving forward, the Bears are in some rut, to say the least. The Buffalo Bills will be without Keon Coleman as they get ready for the game of the year, as they're calling it in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills take on the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend. No Coleman, but we'll see if Dalton Kincaid plays for the Bills. He missed last week. Meanwhile, Tyrel Dotson, the leading tackler for the Seattle Seahawks, was a surprise wave this past week, just 26 years old. They're making changes on defense, trying to get better. Also, the Cowboys say that Cooper Rush will start at quarterback again this week for Dallas against the Texans. Trey Lance did make a cup of coffee appearance in the game last week. In college football, the Southeastern Conference has fined Ole Miss $250,000 once. It is now $350,000 twice. This is the second offense of the league's policy prohibiting fans from running on the field. And as we know, they don't want this happening anymore in college football, and you're going to get fined a lot of money. Keeps happening, though. Jack Del Rio, former NFL coach, senior advisor to Wisconsin head coach Luke Fickell, is going to resign after he was arrested last Friday and cited for operating a vehicle while intoxicated in Madison, Wisconsin. This happened just off campus. Del Rio apparently showed signs of impairment and admitting to driving the vehicle. Also, Alabama's senior linebacker K. Robinson is going to undergo season-ending surgery. There is college football games to be had tonight, in case you're interested in MACtion. Western Michigan, Bowling Green, Ball State at Buffalo, Central Michigan at Toledo. By the way, Toledo 14.5-point favorites tonight. They've had a good season. Their total is 51.5. In the NBA last night, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had one of his best games of the season. 45 points, 9 assists, and 5 steals in a very high-scoring game. We're seeing a lot more of this in the NBA. The Thunder beat the Clippers 134-128. After the game, SGA talked about his incredible performance, which we've seen time and time again.
We've been small for like the majority of the time I've been here. It feels like up until we got Chet, we've been small and had to play that way. So it was nothing new for us. And those, I guess, years kind of built a muscle for us and how to play despite the disadvantage. And we wanted to come in tonight and not use that as an excuse. We've been there before. We won games playing small, and we can do it again.
The NBA's best team is the Cleveland Cavaliers by a mile. They're now 12-0 on the season. They won again yesterday. They have the best start in the NBA since the 2015-16 Golden State Warriors. 119-113, Donovan Mitchell had 36 points. Damian Lillard is in concussion protocol, averaging 26 points a game. We know Milwaukee's had a tough time at the start of this season. And by the way, the NBA's in-season tournament for the NBA Cup also begins tonight. A bizarre scene last night at the University of Florida as Todd Golden, the head coach of the Gators basketball team, coached his first game amid allegations of sexual harassment and stalking. In fact, the crowd gave him a standing ovation. It was his first public appearance since he acknowledged an ongoing school inquiry to sexual harassment. Golden previously said he is considering defamation claims. We'll see how that works out. Also in the Champions Classic last night, Duke 6.5-point favorites, which is going on tonight, and Kentucky, they'll take on Kentucky. The total is 160, and also Michigan State and Tom Izzo, 6.5-point underdogs to number one Kansas with a total of 150.5. When we come back next, it's time to dive into the latest in college football. What does the big win for the Crimson Tide over LSU do for their playoff chances? And also, what does it do for the Heisman chances for Jalen Milroe? We'll talk about that with Bill Bender from Sporting News next.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but Nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have a Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was
that's
looking
what your
down
grandma
and did
does,
not
right?
know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Bill Bender is with us from Sporting News. We'll go over the latest in college football. Later in the week, we'll preview some games. Bill's back with us. And Bill, what is old is new again. We write off Alabama, September. This is not the year. Kalen DeBoer, Nick Saban's gone. And here we are again as Alabama beats LSU in convincing fashion. They're right back in this thing, not just for the college football playoff, but just maybe to even be part of the national championship picture. I remember a year ago doing this similar conversation, and then there Alabama was sneaking in the end. When FSU's quarterback got hurt, I think the Crimson Tide have a pretty clear path here. And I don't know if they're going to win it all, Bill, but they definitely seem like they are destined to be back in the playoff again.
I'm smirking, Craig, because on my script I put what is old is new. Craig, I had that written down. I'm going to send it to your Frankie, the producer, and it be for proof that I'm not lying. But last 2 weeks, 291 yards rushing average for the Crimson Tide, 6.8 yards per carry. Jalen Milroe puts on a show reminiscent of last year when it was against Jaden Daniels. They emptied the stadium. Didn't have that on the bingo card, that they would empty Tiger Stadium with 14:03 left in the fourth quarter. Impressive performance. I think their schedule's set up. We talked about the value of them as a possible SEC champion. They got to get into the game still with that 2-loss mix, but high on Alabama all of a sudden. This is life in the SEC. We have to crown somebody different each week. It's compelling.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun to watch, and Milroe's been great. 4 rushing touchdowns, 185 rushing yards with Cam Ward losing his game. Milroe's back in the conversation. I mean, as long as Colorado plays well, I think Travis Hunter is still right there. But we're in November, and we're not sure who's going to win the Heisman. So I think that's great news. Now, Bill, as far as who I know won't win the Heisman, it will be Carson Beck. My gosh. Unfortunately for young Carson Beck, has any player lost more stock in college football this season, a quarterback, than him? I'm not sure. Ole Miss just runs roughshod over Georgia, 28-10. The Bulldogs are still very much in it again. They'll play in the SEC championship potentially. They could win. They could get back in. But my gosh, what has happened here? I did not anticipate him being a superstar, Bill. I've seen him play enough. But the last month of his college football career has been a disaster.
A lot of turnovers, and it finally caught up with them. When you turn the ball over 3 times per game, my old high school coach said that was a goal, to force 3 turnovers. If you force 3 turnovers more often than not, you were winning the game. Well, Georgia wins the game against Texas. They look moderate at best against Florida, and then it catches up with them. And when you average 1.8 yards per carry on the road, I thought Ole Miss was motivated. The weather helped a little bit, but Georgia is sloppy. And I went through the internal debate that night of, okay, are we actually pushing them out of the playoff? Which we did, and which by the AP Top 25, they did. So the big question is the committee going to do that? Are they actually going to push Georgia around 11 or 12, which is where they belong? Because let's be honest, that's how they do. They look like a playoff team to you, Craig? They don't look like one to me.
No. And again, I mean, in the SEC, you cannot score 10 points against any team and win. It is simply not going to happen. Oklahoma will tell you that too for a while, for the most part this season. All right. Well, we hit on this last week. Unfortunately, I mean, not to say that I predicted this would happen, but I laid it out pretty well, Bill, that the Hurricanes were just playing with fire all season long, and they finally got burnt last week against Georgia Tech. I don't know if you wrote that one down too, but 28-23 was the final there. I mean, Miami is right on the cusp of the playoff. I got to tell you, Bill, I don't think it matters. I think they're going to lose again, and I know that my South Florida fans are going to be mad at me for that one, but, I mean, their defense is not good. I mean, they're and in a conference where it should be much better. I think they're still going to have some fun. I think they're still going to score some points. They'll be in a really big bowl game, but, I mean, I don't see them as a playoff team.
Well, they're going to have to win the ACC championship to do that, because what happened Saturday, not being able to stop the run against Haynes King, SMU still has the ACC lead in the standings. And one thing to keep in mind as we sort out all these tiebreakers, I do think Miami will get to the ACC championship game, and I think SMU will. And the big game there, it's because Clemson lost to Louisville. So you got to study up on tiebreakers, get used to the phrase common opponents over the next 3 weeks as we sort out all those jumbles between all these conferences. But I love Cam Ward. I do, but I didn't like that we ended his Heisman campaign on a fumble, or so social media did. But to your point, the defense is a problem. They turn the ball over at inopportune times. They'll probably lose to SMU at this point. And SMU is a team to watch. What a story that is, coming into the conference, going to the college football playoff in year one if the Mustangs are able to pull it off.
Yeah, no, they're right there. And I think that we're not talking about them enough. I don't know if they can win a playoff game, but the schedule is still about a month away. But we do have the rankings coming out tonight. Bill, who's in your top 7 to begin before they release these rankings?
I mean, it matches up what we have right now. I think, you look at Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and, Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, Notre Dame. Indiana's undefeated. What I think you're going to see happen over the next couple weeks is the SEC schools that have 2 losses are going to look at Indiana and say, hey, they haven't beat anybody. They haven't beat a ranked team yet. They struggled against Michigan. You could argue that the Wolverines may have won that game if they had anything at quarterback. Notre Dame, I know we talk about them every week and joke, but they are playing well the last 4 games. They're beating up on ACC teams. They would probably win the ACC. That would be my justification there. But one of those teams out of Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia is probably going to get squeezed out of the playoff, and they're not going to like it when they see the teams that are going to get in ahead of them.
By the way, let's look at your 8 through 14 real quick. Do you think that the win that BYU had puts them in, Bill, no matter what? I'm assuming the most games they would lose from here on out, if I look at their schedules, 1. Would a 1-loss BYU team get in?
I still think the Big 12's a 1-bid league because you're able to push them down if they lose a conference championship game. One could argue Utah should have won that game based on the finish. And keep an eye on Colorado. Their schedule's set up that if they get that Big 12 championship shot, they can beat BYU with that passing attack. It's going to be really intriguing to see who wins that one Big 12 bid.
Yep, coming down to the wire in college football, end of the regular season this month. Unbelievable. This went by so fast, Bill. Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. SportsGrid Sound Off is next.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but Nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have a Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you was here on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Imagine a coach admitting that he doesn't like to shower after games. Yeah, that's on our menu for the SportsGrid Sound-Off. We'll also hear from Steph Curry. And Big Ten Ben is ready for a big matchup coming up this weekend. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound-Off. All right, who would have thunk it land? The Colorado Buffaloes are on the verge of making school history. It has been a while since they have been championship contenders. I think I got to go back to maybe 25 years when they split the title with Georgia Tech, I want to say. I feel like that's the last time that Colorado was this close to doing anything good. But hey, Coach Prime has them in a great spot. If they win out, folks, the Buffaloes will be in the college football playoff, and we know the ratings for that game will be big. Everybody likes watching Colorado. You know who else does? Ben Stevens. What will it take for the Buffs to make it? Here's a preview.
Colorado has a favorable path to reach the college football playoff. The Buffs are 5-1 in Big 12 play. They have covered in all 6 of their conference games and should be the favorites in their final 3 in Big 12 action, including Saturday at home in Boulder as a 9.5-point favorite against Utah. Now, CU did not cover in its first 2 games of the year. They have now covered in 7 in a row, including 4 times as a favorite, as they will get ready to host Utah on Saturday. Colorado is not only the favorite on Saturday against the Utes, CU is the favorite to win the Big 12, 50 cents in front of undefeated BYU at a plus 135 price. If Colorado runs the table and wins a Big 12 championship, Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes will be playing in the college football playoff. Craig, back to you.
Thanks, Ben. Kind of crazy to think when Colorado got blown out back in September that they would actually have a shot at this. But to their credit, they played very well. We'll see if they get there. Meanwhile, it's a reunion of sorts in the Bay Area as Klay Thompson comes back to the Warriors. 4-time NBA champion. Kind of a sad ending to his career in Golden State. But remember, the one player that he played with for all of those championships is, of course, Steph Curry. It's going to be an emotional night without a doubt. And Curry talked about this little mini reunion that's about to happen.
I don't know, actually. We've had homecomings before, but nothing like this with the level of impact and the brand of Klay in the Bay Area is something that I don't know if any word I or way I explain it will do it justice. We obviously have a game to play, so you want to make sure you're locked in mentally on that, but he deserves the celebration and the welcome that he's going to get. And then, like I talked about before, it would be a great opportunity to reflect on all the memories that we had. I don't want to be too crazy where it's not a memorial or like a bitch is like, we're still talking about basketball and life, but you want to enjoy the moment of getting the celebration that he deserves, and however it plays out, I just hope he feels the love because he deserves it.
I'm glad that Steph cleared up that it's not an obituary. I did not expect to hear that at the end of that interview. All right, meanwhile, on to cleaner things, no pun intended. Fran Brown, head coach at Syracuse University, discussed about how when the team wins and loses, some different rituals involved. And, another thing that we did not expect to bring you here on the show is, cleanliness. And in this case, Fran Brown was specifically asked about that after volunteering the fact that he may skip a shower or two based on the end result of his team's games.
Honestly, I got like a ritual. Like when we lose, I ain't even getting a shower till early this morning. I just be mad. I just brush my teeth. But it's like I don't deserve soap. I don't deserve to do all that. I'm just focused on like trying to get back and trying to make sure that our players mentally understand and know that I let them down, that they didn't do it. I just wake up all night, especially when you lose. You like wake up like, dang, it really happened. It really happened that way. So it's just different pieces. And then I just move on. There's a process that I follow every week. Win, lose, or draw. Only thing is like my wife, I can't sleep in the bed if we lose because I ain't going to get in the shower for that day. I'm just mad and I just sit there. I just brush my teeth. That's what I have to do so y'all won't say my breath stink. But I'm just kind of locked in on certain things, certain ways. I think you gotta earn the right to do certain things. So, winners get washed. You know what I'm saying? And the losers, I just kind of waited a little bit.
Thanks for brushing your teeth, Coach.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have a Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Hinted your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Great to have Jacob Kamaker from USA Today in the house as we break down the latest in the National Football League. And, Jacob, I'm in this office pool, I got to tell you. And, second straight year, I am dominating this thing with my picks. Anybody who watches me on the show know I'm not a bragger about picks or anything like that, but I like to talk about when I lose more than I win. So I'm going into Jacob last night's game. All I need to do is get that Rams win, and I win this darn office pool last night. And I went against the Dolphins, and boy, and I'll tell you, I was so shocked because I wasn't disappointed, Jacob, that I lost. I was disappointed in watching the Rams, man. Like, they should have dominated that game, missing field goals on the 30, penalty, move back 20 yards, another penalty, move back another 20 yards. I mean, I guess from a betting perspective, it makes me feel like this result should be a little bit flopped for the future, and I think there'll be some overreaction on the Rams because, personally, I think, give the Dolphins credit, they won the game, but the Rams also lost it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. That was an ugly performance from the Rams, and there's really no reason for it. When you look at, they were getting healthier on the offensive line, and that might have been what screwed them up a little bit because they didn't look fully comfortable with the center quarterback exchange at times. I know Jonah Jackson used to play guard and has moved to center this year for the Rams, so I don't know if him returning from injury and going back into that role was a little bit difficult, but I thought Matthew Stafford had a particularly brutal game. It seemed like every time the Rams needed him to make a play, he had a big negative moment. I mean, we saw both quarterbacks took some ugly-looking sacks that took their teams out of field goal range at times, but Stafford's were particularly bad because you'd see him under pressure and you would just say to yourself, all right, just throw this ball away or try to throw the check down. And he would just kind of hang on to it and turtle up and then create these long field goal opportunities for Joshua Carty, who did very well making 5 of his 6 kicks, but that missed one ended up costing them because they could have had a chance at that game-tying touchdown drive late, but they were down 2 scores instead. So I thought between that and Sean McVay's strange lack of aggressiveness when they had that 4th and goal where Stafford didn't see that he had Kyron Williams for a check down touchdown and decided to kick it. I thought that was strange too. It just very not McVay-like in terms of not trying to go for the touchdown when you're at the 3-yard line. So it just seemed like an off night for the Rams, but I'm not reading too much into it. But like you, I was very surprised that they kind of came out completely flat in that one, didn't show up.
Yeah, home game too for them. And there isn't a team in the NFL that is now, lost more odds, I guess it's fair to say, than the Rams on making the playoffs and winning the division. I mean, just take a look at this now. All of a sudden, they went from one of the favorites to win the NFC West to 9-1. To make the playoffs, they're plus 470. I believe this number was like 250 or 300 even yesterday. And let's take a look at the standings too, guys, real quick here. The Cardinals are 6-4. These odds seem off to me too. Like, I think I'd rather have actually the Cardinals beat the 49ers once this season. So I guess that means the 49ers must beat the Cardinals next time out. But I feel like that is where my value is, to take the 49ers to win the division. I think that loss last night, Jacob, may have doomed the Rams.
I think you might be right. I still sort of like the value at 9-1 on them, though. I'm not going to lie. It's tough when you look at the performance last night and say to yourself, do I really want to back that? Is this offensive line really that bad? Are they going to struggle against, veteran defensive lines where Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer are very good for the Dolphins? Is this O-line going to be able to block? So I get why people would not want to back that, but I still think that they have a lot of talent on offense, and if they stay healthy, it should come together a little bit better. But I think you're right. The safest bet among those, where there's a little bit of value and you'd feel pretty good about it, is the 49ers, because that team's another team that they didn't have Christian McCaffrey the first half of the season. He's a really dynamic game changer for their offense. Jordan Mason was great with him out, but McCaffrey's 3-down ability and just what he can do as a receiver fundamentally transforms that offense. So I think they're going to get a little hot. I like what the Cardinals are doing, but there's still a talent gap there. They remind me a little bit of Dan Campbell's first year with the Lions, when the Lions didn't get a lot of wins that first year, and then in the second year, they kind of made that late playoff push, didn't quite get there. I think Jonathan Gannon has built something similar, where the Cardinals play really, really hard and really, really well for the personnel they have, but they're still trying to bridge the gap on defense. So I think you're dead right that the 49ers look like the best mix of value and potential. but I'm not counting out the Rams just yet. I'm hoping last night was a fluke, but I get it if you don't want to back them for sure.
Yeah, no, I think the Rams will probably win, coming up whenever they play, whoever they play, just because, again, if you watched the game, you saw that they should have won. The only thing that I would say is I think that the Cardinals have jumped out to, it looks like, a game and a half lead on them. And the other thing, too, is I think the most underappreciated team right now, Jacob, in the NFL is San Francisco with McCaffrey back. I just don't think people understood how much he brought to that team, and I think the 49ers will end up winning the division. Again, that's my opinion. Now, as far as betting on division winners, you can't do it with the Eagles or the Lions because they're off the board. The Falcons are going to be off the board soon. They're minus 1,200 to win. And then, of course, the Cardinals is just who we talked about there. But what's really interesting is we're sitting here in November, and it feels like we know all the playoff teams in the NFC, Jacob. Something kind of crazy, like you mentioned, the Rams would have to go on some epic run. Otherwise, I feel like we're showing everybody who's going to make the playoffs right now.
That's what it feels like. And it's kind of strange because we came into the year saying, oh, the NFC is kind of wide open outside these top few teams. It's probably going to be the AFC where we're going to know more. And that hasn't panned out because the wild card race in the AFC is more wide open because there are a handful of teams that just haven't quite lived up to expectations yet. I think you look at the teams like Washington and Green Bay and Minnesota having these great starts to the season and really just lapping the field almost in those wild card races and the division races. It's going to make it really, really difficult for some of these teams like the Rams, these 4-win teams, to kind of climb into that race. We might end up seeing a battle for which teams will win the division, which teams will be the 5 and 6 seed. But I think by the end of the year, the only team that might not be set in the NFC is going to be that 7 seed. And that's only if one of these teams like the Packers or the 49ers just goes cold at the wrong time. So, yeah, I think you're seeing those 7 teams in the NFC have kind of separated themselves from the pack.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's get to the MVP, where I've learned my lesson with this award. I'm not going to say this is done by any stretch. I mean, this is way too early, and we have a matchup this week with Allen and Mahomes that could even determine some of this stuff. So I'm going to hold off saying that Lamar Jackson's a guarantee. He is plus 110. I understand that, but we got the game of the year coming in the NFL. And in particular, if Josh Allen was to run for 2 touchdowns and throw 3 touchdowns and the Bills were to beat the Chiefs, this is going from plus 360 to like plus 200 in a week. So I'm going to hold off on this, but I do think if you were to ask me, it's probably Jackson, Allen, or Mahomes.
I think you're right about that. And I think the lean will be to give it to Jackson or Allen because Mahomes' stats just aren't very good. I know that the Chiefs are undefeated, but we kind of had last year where it was that there was no really great statistical candidate. And so Lamar ended up taking home because he was truly the most valuable player to his team. This year, Jackson is posting unbelievable stats, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him get it again. But I think Allen does have that chance of if they beat the Chiefs and if they go on a run, if they can get the 1 seed, he's never been the MVP before. He's cut down on his interceptions like crazy. I think that those 2 guys are going to have a shot. And then I wouldn't completely rule out Derrick Henry if he kind of breaks the NFL rushing record. He's the guy who I think could vulture it from Lamar if the Ravens end up with a top seed in the AFC, solely because Lamar already has 2 MVPs. And it's not always fair to do it that way, but there is sometimes voter fatigue in the MVP races. We see that often. But, I think Lamar is the top candidate right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great call with maybe him over some of those other names like Jalen Hurts. All right, so last thing, Jacob, my pathetic keeper dynasty fantasy team has no quarterback. I do not have 1, 0. I have Trevor Lawrence. I have Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is out for the season. Will Cooper Rush throw 1 touchdown for me this week, Jacob? Yes or no? 1.
I say yes.
Thanks.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but Nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek. As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Last time we spoke to Dexter Henry from SNY, boy, he was so busy. He had the Mets going on and the Yankees going on and the NBA starting and the NHL starting. Well, Dexter, I hope you got a little bit of a breather here. And, there's sort of good news, bad news, I guess, for you. Good news is that is gone. Bad news is the two football teams there are all but gone, too. But at least you got the NBA,
yes.
right?
Yeah, at least we have the NBA. At least the Knicks, who have disappointed some of their fans, the Nets have surprised some of their fans. So
right.
Yeah, but New York football, yeah, we won't talk about that. We'll leave that one alone for now.
Yeah, we'll stay away from that. All right, so let's start off with one of the matchups in the East in the NBA tonight and get your opinion on it. And it is the Knicks and the 76ers and a point spread that a few weeks ago, Dexter, if I would have told you that the Knicks are going to be favored in Philly in November, you would have said, well, what catastrophe happened for the Sixers for that to happen? And the answer would be pretty much everything. So the Knicks are a 1.5 favorite tonight, total of 213.5. I suppose at some point Philly's going to start, winning some games. I'm going to guess. I guess we could start with tonight and go from there.
Yeah, and here's why tonight's interesting, Craig, right? Because you're going to get the return of Joel Embiid, and you wonder what kind of emotional boost that will provide the team, right? But there's been all the drama going on with Embiid. So how does that work? Now, Embiid, he has had a whale of a time against Karl Anthony Towns. He's feasted on him, and Karl Anthony Towns is struggling defensively right now, allowing over 91% of shots that he faces at the rim where he's trying to defend. So he's got to clean that up. Embiid feasts in that. However, how is Embiid's knee? That's the key to me. And do the Knicks try to attack him in pick and roll situations with Karl Anthony Towns, who's been fantastic offensively? So this is the real key matchup for me in this game. With all that being said, the Sixers are not going to have Tyrese Maxey. He's out now. I think that's a huge advantage, especially for Jalen Brunson in this game. I'd love him going over his points prop there. I think it's at 24.5. I wouldn't even mind if somebody wanted to sprinkle a couple dollars down on Embiid going over his points, though I'm a little bit skeptical of how many minutes he'll play in this one. But I like the Knicks in this one just because I think the Knicks are coming off of a loss in Indiana where they did not play well defensively. They gave up 40 points in the fourth quarter. I think they'll be motivated on the road. First time these two teams are meeting since Game 6 in the playoffs last year. I'll go with the Knicks to cover here. But, yeah, I think this point spread, very shocking that the Knicks are getting the points on the road. I didn't think we would have thought this at the beginning of the season, but everything injury-wise has gone wrong in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and the only other team, I guess there are a lot of teams are, not happy with their start. I'm sure Milwaukee's another one of those teams that you wouldn't have thought that would be in this spot, but the win total for Philadelphia, I believe, went from 50 to 44.5, dropped like 6. So that's kind of where it stands right now. And look, still a lot of time left in the season to make the playoffs. Everybody makes it, so they're minus 650. But as far as their other numbers, they're really high. Plus 1950 to win the East, plus 2400 to win the finals. All right, reunion tonight in the Bay Area. We got the Mavericks taking on the Golden State Warriors. Warriors finally, Dexter, off to a good start. We haven't seen this in a number of years. Usually they're sort of like struggling through the season to make it, and then they find their way into the playoffs. But they're off to a nice start. They're 2.5-point favorites, but Dallas is really good. Total of 232.5. This will be really nice to see. Clay will get a nice ovation, I would imagine.
Yeah, Clay's going to get a really nice ovation returning to the Bay. It's going to be an emotionally charged game, I think, for both sides, especially for Clay. He's going to want to shoot the ball well here. The Warriors are going to want to win this game. I think what the Warriors have been so good, Craig, is just their depth. You know, Steve Kerr talked about this at the start of the season. He loved the depth for this team, and their bench is the best bench in terms of production and points in the league right now. So you love how their bench is playing. They just got Anthony Melton back. They're looking really good. I expect this to be a really good game, but I'm really intrigued to see how Klay Thompson comes out shooting the ball because, you know, he's coming back. He's going to get that ovation, like you said. He's going to be hyped up, and, you know, he loves playing in front of those fans there in the Bay Area. So, you know, I don't want to say nerves for him because Klay Thompson's a veteran. He's played a million games in the NBA, but, you know, there's going to be something a little bit different. So I will watch his performance. You know, his Dallas teammates are going to want to get a win for him. But where I think the Warriors have an advantage, they've been playing so well, is their bench. I'm going to go with the Warriors here. I'll go, you know, 2.5-point favorites. I like the Warriors here to cover. I think their bench depth has been good. They're a little deeper than Dallas. Dallas a little thin up front with Derek Lively out. So I'm going to go Warriors here to cover.
And as far as Klay Thompson is concerned, I mean, Dexter, this is like the ultimate revenge game. I mean, you're not going to get much better than this. 15-plus points, minus 155. If he goes off tonight, you're going to get plus 180 on that. If he really goes off and hits 5 threes, it's plus 280 tonight. Is that too much to expect?
No, I actually don't think so. You know, I'd say why not sprinkle a couple dollars down into 20-plus points, right? Especially if you think he's going to make 3 or more threes, which he's capable of still doing right now. Not a bad play to, you know, throw a couple dollars down. You got the plus 180 there if he goes 20 or more. If he gets, you know, 3+ threes, he should be in that range. A couple of layups, a couple of middies could be good. I like that play there for Klay Thompson.
All right, and finally tonight, I don't know. I mean, Dexter, I'm hearing all kinds of rumors of Giannis on the outs in Milwaukee. I'm sure it's not true, but naturally when a team gets off to this kind of start, you see it. Look at the Raptors, 7.5. Is that right? 7.5-point favorites tonight against Milwaukee. Talk about a line that I wouldn't see coming.
Yeah, and it's funny. I like the Bucks here. I like the Bucks here in this spot. They're angry. Giannis is angry. He came out angry the other night against Boston. They still lost. They blew a big lead. I think it was a 17-point lead they had. They blew that one. They lost a tough one to the Knicks. The Knicks manhandled them at the Garden on Friday. I think they know, if you look at the Bucks schedule, they have a lot of teams they could beat. They could get right in these next 14 games or so. This is one they have to have. I just think the Bucks have looked like a mess, so this is why the line is what it is. But I kind of like the Bucks here to get right in this spot. I might hit this Bucks money line if I was betting on this game.
All right, plus 250 on the money line there. All right, Dexter, I know a lot of people are not going to be happy when I say this, but I have no interest in this NBA Cup. I really don't know what it is. I don't know why they're doing it. I can't figure it out, but the Celtics are favored to win this NBA Cup, this mid-season tournament that they feel like they need to do to draw more interest, more money. I don't get it at all, but you tell me. Any interest for you?
Yeah, I have a little interest in NBA Cup, and I like it because I'm a European soccer fan, so I'm used to seeing these teams play in mid-season tournaments. As far as who could win this, the Cavs are playing good right now. I could see them winning it. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Not so sure, but we'll see.
Undefeated, the Cavs on the season. Good call by you. All right, Dexter, enjoy your week. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you, man.
All right, last licks up next. Don't go away.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We'll dive into something that happened between Ole Miss and Georgia on the field after the game. Also shed some light on the Dallas Cowboys and a farewell to Pete Rose. It's time now for some last licks. All right, this is a good one that we're ending the show with here. University of Georgia loses to Mississippi. After the game, a player on Georgia, a young man named Jake Pope, is seen in a viral video celebrating with a family member from the University of Mississippi. He plays for Georgia. This video was eventually seen by his head coach, Kirby Smart, who talked about seeing the video of his player celebrating on the field with a family member of the other team.
Yeah, what an idiot. Just stupid. I didn't see it till today, but he's embarrassed about it. He's upset about it. That's obviously a childhood friend of his. He grew up and played with there at Buford and knows him, hadn't seen him in forever, but just not real smart. But to be honest with you, I don't have time to waste energy on that. You know what I'm saying? Like my focus is on Tennessee. I'm not worried about that.
All right. Well, Kirby Smart, very upset. What's really interesting, I got to tell you, a lot of people are coming to the defense of this player, saying that this is a situation where it was a very close member of his family. And really interesting to me. I thought people would be crushing this kid, and they're really not. They're basically saying that it's like family. He was sort of jumping around, and maybe Kirby Smart was in the wrong here for some of his comments. I don't know. We're going to have to stay tuned to this one. I'm not completely sold that this young man made a huge mistake. All right, now let's get to a clear mistake. A stupid mistake. The Dallas Cowboys mistake. My gosh, what is going on here with the Cowboys? First, they play a game over and over again where they refuse to put a curtain over the sun. The sun comes in and it blocks the vision of the players. Now it even comes into the media room and blocks the vision of the head coach, Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones, come on, man. You got to do something about this. Enough is enough. It's a bad enough season for the Cowboys. They're not going to make the playoffs. They may end up with one of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft. That's how bad they are, and they can't even get this whole sun situation fixed. Now, I understand. Jerry wants the stadium to look beautiful, loves the idea of the sun coming into the stadium, but at some point, it's got to be addressed. And by the way, why isn't this addressed by the NFL? Why isn't the NFL coming in and saying this is like a safety issue? We can't have footballs thrown around where the guys can't see it and it could even hit them in the head. Telling you now, this time next year, there's going to be some sort of curtain on that stadium. I think this is coming to an end. Doesn't need to be the Cowboys. Football, NFL, little talk with Jerry, going to fix this. All right, 14 hours of visitation for the hit king, Pete Rose, in Cincinnati yesterday. Lines of people going around the block to say farewell to Pete Rose, who passed away about a month ago. Certainly he was an absolute legend in baseball and a bigger legend in Cincinnati, Ohio. They had the visitation yesterday, Veterans Day, so to speak, and they said farewell to Pete Rose. That's how we end the show, saying farewell to him as well. All right, that will do it for our show here today. Just a quick reminder, for those of you who tune into the show each and every day, we'll be with you every single day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. But I know a lot of you have been asking me about this. Fantasy football, playoffs are coming and need more content. Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings here on SportsGrid, we have fantasy sports today. I host with Joe Pisapia. I host with George Kurtz. Saturday morning, Joe Pisapia, who I used to host with Matt Stryker on Sunday morning. So make sure you tune into those shows. That's Saturday morning and Sunday mornings right here exclusively on Grid. Also want to thank all of our guests here on the show today. Thanks to Dexter Henry from SNY, Bill Bender from Sporting News, and of course, Jacob Kamaker from USA Today. Coming up next here on SportsGrid, we've got the early line, so make sure you stay tuned. That's followed by Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast, 3 o'clock Eastern. Game time decisions, in-game live game day, and then Gabe tonight on Sports Rage. Tons of NBA, tons of NHL, and tons of college basketball as well. The next time you and I will talk and see each other will be tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, on our next edition of NewsWire. That will be at 11 a.m. Eastern. So enjoy the rest of your day here on SportsGrid. And until the next time, whether it's tomorrow or somewhere else, thanks for checking out the show today, streaming, watching, however you are, as they say, consuming this show today. And I'll see you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, for our next edition of the show. See you then.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the moment. That's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Importantly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma will do to you when he goes here on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Farrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.